We're going to go ahead and begin. So welcome to the town of Davie. If you're not familiar, we are a Western themed town. So a quick introduction, if you guys are not familiar. Again, Davie is historical for Western theme, also known as a cowboy town. So whenever we do like construction related projects or even brochures, things like that, we try to go with the Western theme. And just to put out there, the town has been, oh, sorry about
that. That was my bad. I clicked it. Can you go back?
Yes.
Okay, there.
So I did include here that the town of Davie has been awarded for the last 8 years an award of excellence in public procurement for the FAPO. So obviously we do take pride in our procurement processes here. We do follow strict standards and procedures. And we also included here that the town of Davie is one of 2 local government agencies in Broward County that has been awarded an award for quality public procurement. So if you guys are not familiar with that, not a lot of agencies do receive that award. And also as of May 2026, the town has about 660 active contracts for services and goods throughout our community. I also included our departments and divisions. And the reason why I included that there, because out of this large town, every single department or division does require some type of services or specific materials. So some main topics that we'll be going over is the solicitation thresholds and differences, how to get on the Town of Davie procurement homepage and find our procurement information, OpenGov, which is a platform that we currently use to solicit our bids, active solicitations, future solicitation opportunities, insurance and additional requirements, vendor registration, maintaining your contract, and common mistakes. So we understand that there are some agencies that work a little differently. So just to inform you guys, when it comes to our thresholds, we do follow the Florida statute thresholds. So whenever there is a change in the Florida statute thresholds, we will also make our change as well. But again, keep in mind that every city and agency works a little bit differently. So the first one here, if there's any specific project or item that, let's say, Public Works may need, and it's under $5,000, they could go ahead and contact a few different businesses and get some quotes. And as long as it's under $5,000, they could go ahead and make that purchase or request that service. The next threshold is for the informal thresholds. So that's from $5,000 and a penny up to $35,000. So that typically starts with an ITQ, which is invitation to quote, or an RFP, request for proposal. So later down our presentation, I will show you guys some contract names that include contract numbers. So I did include the abbreviations here, so you have an idea on what those abbreviations mean. And those abbreviations, they do fall under those specific thresholds. So you have that idea there. So the next one is a formal threshold. So that's anything that's over $35,000 and a penny. So you'll see that those contracts typically start with an ITB, which is invitation to bid, RFP, which is request for proposal, and RFQ, which is a request for qualifications. Any questions at this time in regards to our thresholds and the differences? So in this slide right here specifically, I'm showing you guys how to go on the Town of Davie website and how to find all of our departments. So you can see all of our departments here, and you'll also see the procurement division section. So here in this specific page, there is a lot of helpful information that I wanted to bring to your attention. And again, if you go through each department, you'll see that they also provide helpful information as well as contact information. So one of the first things that I want to show you guys is where we publish our solicitations. So at this time, we currently only use one platform, and the platform is OpenGov. Is anyone here familiar with the platform OpenGov? And yourself? That's really good to know. I'm so happy that you guys are familiar with that platform, because aside from the Town of Davie, it looks like there are some other agencies that are now utilizing over to this platform. So in case you are not aware, OpenGov is free for vendors. So the town is the one who pays for the subscription, and it is free for you guys to go ahead and create an account. So in case you're not familiar with OpenGov and you're not familiar with the account or how to set up an account, you could go right over here to the Town of Davie Procurement page, and it shows you step-by-step instructions on how to register, how to subscribe, and so forth. So really quickly, I went ahead and tried to get a vendor's perspective. I went ahead and created my own account as if I was a vendor, just to show you guys how simple and easy it is. So right in there, I went ahead and included all my company information. And one of the main things that I wanted to bring to your attention as this video continues is that all this information that you enter in here is pretty much your front-facing company information. So whatever you include in here, think of it as like a Facebook account or a LinkedIn account. So this information is not only available for the Town of Davie, but also for other agencies. So you want to make sure that the contact email, the contact number, or any websites that you put on there is accurate. It is the most up-to-date information, because other agencies will reach out. So when you go ahead and set up your account here, it's really simple, very easy to use. There is a quick tour here on how to utilize the platform if you're not familiar with it. So one of the things here that I wanted to bring to your attention is, let's say you come across a bid and you want to follow a project, which I will show you later down the presentation. You could actually draft a response and you could come back and work on it later. You could subscribe to certain cities or other agencies. And again, you could set up your account here for everyone to view your information that you have available and the services that your company provides. So right over here, you have the ability to find projects. So there are some common questions here in regards to how to find projects. And as you can see here, I'm under the following, so you could follow different agencies as I mentioned, and I'll show you guys how to do that in the next slide. In your OpenGov account, do you guys have commodity codes set up?
Yes.
Great. So aside from your responses, you can see your awards, and you can see some other information here as well. So in this slide here, I created my business account. I added my logo, I made it look nice, and I'm going to go ahead and edit my information on here. So again, you want to remember that all this information is available to the public. If you're not familiar with what commodity codes are, it's this section right over here. So pretty much the commodity codes is a specific code that you could enter into your account that relates to the services or products that you provide. So for example, if I have a janitorial or cleaning service, there are commodity codes for cleaning, for restoration, for all types of things that you can add. And whenever you do link those commodity codes to your company account, whenever a agency solicits a bid and they enter in those commodity codes, you'll get noticed, you'll get a notification. So when it comes to the commodity codes, you definitely want to think outside the box. So for example, like cleaning or janitorial services, there may be a few commodity codes for that. However, you want to think also like construction, you want to think renovation, because even after construction, they are going to need some type of cleaning after the fact. So maybe you can't necessarily provide a bid response for that project as a whole. However, you'll be notified when that project is made public. You could follow the project, you could see who was awarded the project. You could get in contact with them and you could let them know, hey, I have a cleaning janitorial service. company, I do see that you are awarded this bid for this construction project. And once you're done with the project, I could offer you the service of the janitorial cleaning. So when it comes to commodity codes, you definitely want to take the time to think outside the box, because you may not be a piece of the whole pie, but you definitely are a piece of that pie. So you want to think outside the box. And also when it comes to construction as well. So you want to think of renovations, you want to think of roofing, you want to think of electrical, anything like that, because if you're doing some electrical work, it may be doing some new building, new structure. There has to be something else going on aside from just electrical work. So you can always reach out to those vendors that are awarded those projects. So as I mentioned, we are currently using OpenGov. However, before OpenGov, we were posting our solicitations on our town website. So I'll show you that in a second, but in case you didn't want to log into OpenGov directly to see what we currently have active on OpenGov, you can just go to the town website. We do have a live screen here that shows you what bids we have available. Just to inform you, this presentation video is a little outdated. However, this is just an example to show you how you could filter through there and how you can see what is active. As I mentioned earlier, you could go ahead and subscribe to the town. Not only subscribe to the town, but I believe it's the city of Fort Lauderdale that also utilizes OpenGov. So you could go ahead and subscribe to them as well. You could filter out when you want to be notified for whatever they publish. So if you want to be notified for new bid opportunities, obviously you could go ahead and select that and you'll get the email directly when they solicit anything. And again, keep in mind that maybe there may not be a project that you could complete as a whole, but you may be a piece of that pie. In this slide here, I did give a brief example on how it looks for any bids that we have active. Again, this specific video is a little outdated. However, I just wanted to show you that once you're in OpenGov, you could go ahead and select any project and you could actually follow the project. So aside from subscribing to the town, you could follow a project. So whenever an addendum is published, bless you. Whenever an addendum is published, whenever the tabulation is published, whenever the award recommendation is published, you can follow it and you'll be notified. And this is just a quick visual on how this project looks in OpenGov. And again, I wanted to follow this project to give you the visual, and you could go ahead and select what it is you want to be notified of. And you could see, you could draft the response and you could go ahead and finish it later, or you could just click no bid if you like. But just to inform you, all of the information on here is let me say that a lot of the departments, they kind of reuse solicitations from previous years. So there may be questions that you may have that could have changed throughout the years. So don't hesitate to ask any questions. And you definitely want to make sure you keep in mind that there are deadlines for everything. So aside from a deadline of when the bid is due, there also are deadlines for when the Q&A is coming to an end as well, which you could see right next to the Town of Davie logo. It does include that information there. So right over here in this video, I'm taking you back to the town website, and I'm showing you that prior to June 2024, we were publishing our bids on the town website and also on Demand Star. So the reason why I'm showing you this is because sometimes we have some vendors that do ask questions on bids, asking what was the previous bid award, or who was awarded a bid for, you know, even if it was 5-6 years ago. So maybe that information is not available on OpenGov since we recently transitioned, but on the town website, you could go ahead and you could search up the same solicitation. But again, a lot of these solicitations are repetitive. So for example, like this one here, roof replacement, This one seems like it's project-based, however, there's a lot of solicitations that we continue on, so if we started it in 2022, it ends in 2025, we're probably gonna resolicit it. And, you could go ahead and look at what were the previous bid amounts and also who went ahead and responded to those bids to have an idea more or less who your competition may be and what their price was at that time. So I know you said you do construction, so you definitely wanna go ahead and add commodity codes like roofing, for example. And generators, I know you said you do generators as well, sir. So I wanted to give you a visual here on how it looks on the town website for our older bids and what's available. So you'll be able to see the solicitation document itself, if you wanted to look at the terms and conditions, the bid opening report, all of the responses, the tabulation, award, recommendation, and the award letter. So you want to use this as an advantage whenever you are working on a bid. Because again, you'll be able to see what was previously submitted. Any questions at this time online? So when it comes to building your toolkit, first and foremost, as I mentioned earlier, you definitely want to take the time to set up your account in OpenGov. And I'm not sure if I mentioned earlier or not, but when I did create my dummy OpenGov account, which I was showing you earlier, I included a whole bunch of commodity codes, again, just to test it out. And I did receive an email from OpenGov that the city of Fort Lauderdale requested me to follow their page. So there are other cities that will be interested in your services. So again, take the time to set up your account. You want to make sure that you are active on SunBiz, and you want to make sure that you do have your state registration. There are a couple of scenarios that we have come across where there's companies that change their business name, or they include like a DBA, or they remove it. But then again, they don't go through the correct process to update this information on SunBiz and so forth. You want to go ahead and create your OpenGov account as we went through, and you want to know your competition. So just like I was showing you earlier, even if the bid was the previous bid was prior to 2024, you can go ahead and check on the town website, or it may be available on OpenGov. So know your competition, because usually the people who have submitted to a bid previously will most likely submit to the bid again. Also, your contact client references. So when you're setting up your account on OpenGov, I believe you have the option there to include some references. So you want to make sure that those people are still at those businesses. They still could take on a phone call and represent you in case somebody did need to verify that your company is legit. And when it comes to your certificate of insurance, we do have a section in the OpenGov that provides you the information on what is required for your certificate of insurance. So you have an idea on when it comes to the auto, general liability, and for the workers' comp, what are the minimum requirements. But keep in mind, just in case you may not have that at the time of bidding, you do have the opportunity to increase your insurance policy after the fact in case you are awarded a bid. Because there are some companies that kind of hesitate because they don't want to necessarily make that change if they're not sure if they are going to be awarded the bid or not. You want to go ahead and make sure your W-9 form is active, your company contacts, your mission statement. All this information is highly important, especially if you are a company that provides, I know sir, you mentioned that you provide generators and forklifts. So in your OpenGov account, you do have the ability to upload your W-9 form, and you do have the ability to upload additional documents. So if you are a business that provides products, it is highly encouraged to go ahead and upload that document onto OpenGov, because again, not only do the project managers have the ability to view the products that you provide, but also these other agencies. You want to make sure that your work history and your recently completed projects are something that can be referenced, because we have had scenarios where some companies mentioned that they worked on this project, but once the project manager did go ahead and contact the reference, they did not hear good feedback. So you want to make sure that the information that you provide and the projects that you worked on is something that we could go back and look at. And also you want to include your key staff. This is more helpful whenever you're doing like an RFP or RFQ, because in those scenarios, sometimes we would like to know that you have the supporting staff available to provide the service or products that we may need. Also, if you're like a construction company or some other company that does work with subcontractors, it is very helpful if you include your subcontractor information, because we want to make sure that that subcontractor is also a legit subcontractor and that we know that you're working with them. And if you provide any of the licenses or certifications on your OpenGov website, that's also very beneficial to you and also for all the other agencies that view your page on OpenGov. Does anybody have any questions at this time? So I'm kind of going back to the town website here. Sorry, this is a little blurry, but I just wanted to share with you guys that there is important vendor information. So aside from majority of this information being available on OpenGov, once you go ahead and process your bid response, we also do have the information here available. So in case you're not sure what the insurance requirements are or how to complete a W-9 form, or some of our policies, terms and conditions, you do have that information available here. Also some FAQs for some common questions. However, just keep in mind that if you do have any questions about any specific bids, you have the ability to ask that question in OpenGov. We have a lot of vendors that contact us and they ask us, how do we sign up to be a vendor with the town? Because we understand that a lot of different agencies, they do have vendors go ahead and pre-register. So that's not exactly how the town of Davie works. The town of Davie only requires vendors to register with us at the time that we are ready to proceed with doing business. So let's say that you're getting awarded a bid. At that time, we'll provide you the award recommendation and the next steps. So one of the next steps includes completing your vendor registration. So we do use the platform PaymentWorks, which is a secured platform where you're able to go ahead and provide your business information, which will be linked to our town information. So let's say, for example, if you wanted to get paid by check or ACH, you have the ability to update that automatically in here. We'll receive the notification and we'll go ahead and make the changes accordingly. Are you guys familiar with PaymentWorks or have you used PaymentWorks? So this is an example here with my company that I created. I went ahead and sent myself an email, and this is how it would look if you were getting awarded a bid. Pretty much it states here that the town of Davie invited you to go ahead and complete your vendor registration, and these are the next steps. So some of the most common mistakes are the certificate of insurance. The most complicated thing is the certificate of insurance. For some reason, we try to include a breakdown of what is required and also a visual of what is required, because we want to help the vendors get awarded as quickly as possible and start the process in regards to the award. So again, you will not necessarily need to worry about this until it's time to go ahead and register in OpenGov, in PaymentWorks. However, I'm bringing this to your attention because this definitely delays a lot of vendors from starting the process. Another common mistake is last minute bid submissions. So again, you could go ahead and follow any project as I showed you earlier, but you definitely want to mark in your calendars when these bids are due, and also the Q&As, because there are deadlines for the Q&As as well. So you want to make sure you do have time to review the solicitation, and you do have the ability to ask any questions before that Q&A deadline, because that could definitely make a difference in your bid response. Another common mistake is verifying your bid response prior to submission. So we have had many scenarios where vendors try to submit their bid response too quickly, trying to hurry and meet the deadline. And then they call us at 2:01 when the deadline was at 2 p.m. and they say, hey, I don't know what happened. I got locked out and I don't know what's going on. So you will definitely get locked out. And another reason why it's very important to verify your bid response and not wait last minute is because we have noticed that a lot of agencies, or I'm sorry, a lot of businesses will use the same information that they responded for the city of Plantation, for example, and they'll just copy that information and drop it right into this bid. And we've noticed that instead of referencing the town of Davie, they've mentioned the city of Fort Lauderdale, or they go ahead and say the city of Davie. So there are very minor errors that could occur, and you definitely don't want to be one of those vendors. And another very important thing to look out for are pre-bid meetings. So I personally work with the Public Works Department, and the Public Works Department does have a lot of pre-bid meetings depending on the project. So again, this information will be available on OpenGov, including like when the bid was published. If there are any pre-bids, some may be non-mandatory, but then some also are mandatory. So again, you want to make sure you mark your calendars for these mandatory pre-bids. If you do not come to these mandatory pre-bids and your name is not on that sheet for sign-in for those pre-bids, and you submit a bid response, you're automatically disqualified because you did not show up to the mandatory pre-bid. So we do go ahead and we reference who was at the mandatory pre-bid and make sure that everyone who responded was there. I highly recommend to take advantage of these pre-bids because it is a great networking opportunity for vendors, because especially construction, because not only is the main engineer there, but also people who work for AC companies, the electricians, the plumbers. There's so many people who show up to these pre-bids that are a piece of that pie. So keep that in mind. This is a great networking opportunity, and you could go ahead and inform those vendors of the services that you provide. Also, there are some companies that provide like furniture. So if you see some new construction, again, try to take the time to reach out to those vendors or come to those pre-bid meetings if they are available, because again, you could provide your service or products for this project. Another common mistake is whenever the vendors are completing their payment works, vendor registration, there is a bank verification that is required for signing up for ACH. So sometimes, again, some vendors don't really provide the most accurate information, and it kind of delays the whole process. So you want to make sure you double check all the information that you provide and that all of your company information is up to date. Some common terms to know is local Davie vendor. So if you are a local Davie vendor, you kind of have a little advantage depending on the bid responses. And also if you are a local Broward vendor. Are there any companies that are Davie vendors here? Okay, great. How about Broward vendors? Are you guys Broward? Okay, great. So if you go ahead and read here, it does mention that, let's say that you are the lowest bidder or even the secondary lowest bidder, depending if you're a Davie vendor or a Broward vendor, we may have to go into a BAFO, which is a best and final offer. So depending if you fall within that percentage range, we may reach out to you and the other vendor and allow you guys to put a last and final offer, just for the fact that you are a local Davie vendor or a Broward vendor. Another very common term is piggybacking. Are you guys familiar with the term of piggybacking? So if you're not familiar with what piggybacking is, This is super, super important, especially if we solicit any contracts that are not project-based. So let's say, for example, like landscaping or even generators. So when it comes to piggybacking, if the town puts out a bid, for example, Beth, can you think of a piggyback contract we have right now?
Like pool chemicals.
So pool chemicals, for example, the Parks and Recreation Department, they use pool chemicals fairly often for all the pools throughout town. Not only here, but keep in mind that other agencies also need that service. So let's say that the town of Davie puts out a contract for pool chemicals. The city of Fort Lauderdale could utilize that same contract. And also, let's say the city of Fort Lauderdale puts out a contract for paving, like street paving. Depending on how the solicitation is formatted, if it's by like square footage and it's not specific to an exact project, we could utilize that contract and vice versa. So keep in mind that whenever you do get awarded a government contract, not only will the town necessarily utilize that contract, but other agencies can utilize that contract as well, especially like janitorial services, security guard, and golf carts, for example. There's many different contracts that other agencies could definitely utilize. And it's kind of more or less when it comes to cooperative purchasing. So cooperative purchasing is kind of the same in a way, but then again, the town of Davie is part of an organization called NIGP, which is the National Institute of Government Procurement. So we do have quarterly meetings where we meet up with other procurement agents from different agencies, and we speak about some of our common issues. And also we do speak about piggyback contracts and also cooperative contracts. So kind of how Beth was mentioning for the pool chemicals, maybe in these meetings, when we meet up with all these other agencies, someone will mention, hey, I know the city of Fort Lauderdale took the initiative on doing the contract for pool chemicals. Is that city gonna go ahead and do that contract again? Or should somebody else take the lead on that? So you want to keep in mind that not only could local agencies, but also other states could utilize your contract as well, not just Florida. And that's pretty much in regards to the terms to know. Does anybody have any questions at this time? Have you guys worked with cooperative contracts before? Are you familiar with them? Okay, great. And what's your experience with the cooperative contracts?
That the services vary greatly. Some have multiple contracts with one type of discipline. And the administrative fees are very different between all of them. Anywhere from 7.5% down to 1%.
Yes,
So
that
you
is
have
true.
to really know where the value is between all of them. We're not just focusing on one.
Yes, so I did have a video here, but I couldn't include it in this presentation. But if you look in OpenGov, we do have some bids that we personally took the lead on for the cooperative contracting. So if you go ahead and check it out, you will see that there are specific terms and conditions, and they do have like certain percentages in case other agencies do utilize that contract. Is that what you're referencing?
Yeah, but I think in addition, I think the misconception is from a procurement agency standpoint that these cooperative contracts are free. It's a free service. But as contractors, we pay certain levels of administration fees that we attach to our multiplier and things like that, if you're aware of that.
So for the invoicing, you mean, or directly to the co-op?
Directly to the contract holder, whoever that is.
Okay, so for example, like Sourcewell was one of the main.
Yeah, so Gordian would.
Platform.
Yeah.
Yes, so if you're not familiar, you guys could go ahead and take the time to look into Sourcewell. That is another large agency, I guess you could say, or platform that they take the lead on these contracts. And for them to go ahead and take the lead on these contracts, they do sometimes request the vendors to pay a certain percentage to be a part of that whole. Do we have any questions online?
Yeah, I'm answering
Okay, great. Can you click on the slide, Beth?
it. Hold on.
So that pretty much concludes our presentation on how to do business with the town of Davie. I understand that you guys here are fairly familiar with doing government business, and we are working on creating a part 2 on how to manage your contract and how to continue to have good standing with the town of Davie. So on that slide there, I did include our contact information, but again, all this information is available on the town website. And we have, I'm sorry, I didn't even introduce myself. My name is Marcella and this is Beth here. So we are procurement agents and there are other agents that are part of our procurement team. So depending on the department, depends on who's working on that, who's a procurement agent for that department. So on the town website, you'll be able to see who's working with what department. In case you have any specific questions, you can reach out to them directly. So for example, as I mentioned earlier, I work with the Public Works Department. So I know there's a lot of vendors who have questions in regards to how to get in contact with these departments. And honestly, you have to reach out to the departments, let them know that you are available, you are on OpenGov, let them know that you do provide these services, these products, because even though if you share them with me, I could provide it to them. However, it is best to take the time and let them know that you are here, you are available, especially if you do have contracts with other agencies, let them know, because that's kind of a shortcut for a lot of project managers and departments. They would rather use a piggyback contract from an agency that already put all the information together. So that's one less thing that they have to do. So that's kind of a benefit. So as soon as you do get a government contract, the chances of other agencies utilizing that contract is endless. And again, you do have the option to renew your contract, and once you're in, you could go ahead and continue to rebid on that contract every time you do solicit it. Because as I mentioned earlier, a lot of bids are repetitive, like the services are repetitive, like landscaping, providing plants, pressure cleaning. The town always needs these services and products and generators. I know we just had to do an emergency purchase order for generators. So definitely keep an eye out for that. And that pretty much concludes our presentation. I'm sorry, it's a little overwhelmed because somebody deleted my presentation earlier. So I had to put this together very quickly. But does anybody have any questions? I know you guys are fairly familiar with government contracting. But if you do have any specific questions, you can feel free to reach out to me directly. But keep an eye out because we are going to be working on a part 2 on how to expand your services once you do have a government contract. So more information on piggybacking and the co-op as well. Any questions?
You familiar with Omnia contract too?
Yes, and the thing is, I'm familiar with it. However, we kind of depend on the project managers
Okay.
to really look for those services or look for those contracts that we need. So we do inform our departments that Sourcewell is available, Omnia is available, because again, Omnia is another platform that publishes general service contracts and
Right.
that other agencies can utilize. So again, once you do have or take the time to get into Omnia or Sourcewell, that is definitely an advantage. That's definitely an advantage.
Okay.
Because other agencies, as I mentioned, they prefer to utilize a contract that's already out there that puts together all their specifications and, you know, do the whole contract themselves.
Yeah. I know Omnia's main focus like towards just government.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah.
So if you're not familiar with Omnia, I know that you said that you're getting into government contracting. I highly recommend to take the time And so looking to Omnia, Sourcewell, and there are some other sister companies as well. I think there's a new one, that we just got introduced. I think it's called, Gov Movement. That's a new one that's fairly similar to, Omnia and Sourcewell. Are you familiar
Never
with them?
ending, no, never ending.
Yeah,
Always
exactly.
going over the movie pages.
That was,
Yeah, exactly, but.
Driving moving fees.
4 years ago, there were two.
Two, that's
And
it.
now there's hundreds of cooperative contracts.
Yes, but those government ones are definitely the ones I usually wanna get into. That pretty much concludes our presentation.
Appreciate
Hope you
it.
guys got some information.
I'll go ahead and leave this with you.
No, for sure, and I would definitely leave it with our public works department. Please, if you provide like generators and.
The generators, the services, repairs, parts, everything that is related to generators.
I have to double check because for some reason our public works department is putting an emergency purchase order to repair our generators. I'm not sure what is the current status of our generator contract right now, however. Whatever it is that we're doing right now, obviously that information was not included in the original contract.
Understand.
So if you currently have a contract for generator services,
The whole state.
okay, so if you could share that information with me via email, I can share it with Danielle, who's the project manager.
You have a card?
Yeah, of course, because again, when it comes to contracts that are already out there, especially if.
Get all your emails done?
I'm answering questions
If
and
it's a general.
for everybody
service,
that's.
How many people were online?
I'm not really
You know,
sure. There's a good amount though.
State,
I wonder if,
Today, we're actually working on an.
one of my assistants was on. Debbie Giuliani, did you see that one?
No, I didn't see that one.
We're not.
And the thing is, it's for the fire station too, so it's something they urgently need.
All of the city of Seagull, all of the fire station, I believe, is yours.
Nice, so send me an email later, and I could look into the, generator contract, to see when it ends. And that's something you guys wanna take advantage of when you're looking on the town website and OpenGov. Find out when those contracts of those services end, because that means that there's gonna be a new one coming out soon, and you can keep an eye out for that.
Please, my cell phone's right there, office number, and then you have another copy there.
Thank you, Alex. It was nice to meet you.
Have a great day, appreciate you.
Bye,
Thank you.
take care.
Take care, guys. Can I get you a copy?
Yeah, of course. What's your name? Eric. So Eric, I know that you said you